Hi everyone. Today let's talk about my options portfolio. I will briefly talk about some of the news that I'm paying attention to in preparation for the next week. Then I will go over my Robinhood portfolio and talk about my individual positions. Then I will go over my main portfolio with Tastyworks. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So we've had a couple of news pieces that came out since I started making this video, and one of those is a new Rona strain, currently in the UK primarily, and everyone around them is locking down their borders to ensure that it stays mostly in the UK, and this shocked the markets on the 21st of December. However, they recovered to basically unchanged, and I think this is because what the article is saying here, all of the vaccine candidates are pretty confident that their current vaccine will work on any variants of the Rona. So there is a little bit more fear and a little bit more volatility in the markets. But as of right now, the narrative being priced into the markets is that this new strain is not going to affect the current status quo. Of course, there is potential for this to change rapidly as viruses tend to mutate. But for now, the markets are ignoring this. Next up, the stimulus deal is finally complete, according to Mitch McConnell, and it includes $600 to most Americans, including an additional $600 for each kid, and $300 billion out of the $900 billion that passed will be used for small businesses in order to keep them solvent. They also mentioned $300 in weekly supplemental unemployment insurance will be paid out. So this was originally $600 back when the Rona was just getting started, and this has now been decreased to $300 weekly. This is still a significant amount of money being injected into the economy, and it's really going to the people who need it the most. And I think this is part of why the direct payments are a little bit lower than what some people were thinking, because those are going to go to a much wider group of Americans, whereas the supplemental insurance will go to those who are unemployed and need that money the most. They also mentioned in this article that the CDC said that frontline workers will be the first to get the vaccine, as well as those who are 75 and up, as they are the most vulnerable. Frontline workers include 30 million firefighters, police officers, teachers, corrections officers, and daycare workers, as well as the post office, grocery stores, food industry, and those in public transit. Both groups together include 51 million people, and between Moderna and Pfizer, they expect all of those people to be vaccinated by the end of February. The airline industry will get $15 billion to bring back their 30,000 employees that were furloughed at the expiration of the last package, and this will help take care of them through the end of March. And if we expect the highest priority people to be vaccinated by the end of February, it seems like carrying the airline industry through the end of March should be long enough to keep them solvent until they're ready to move back into more complete operations. And then in slightly less exciting news, Brexit continues to move closer and closer to a no deal with the EU, which means they would have significantly higher barriers to trading with their EU partners and would definitely cause some negativity between both groups. They say they've reached a no-deal barrier multiple times and continue to extend the timeline, but it seems more and more likely that a no deal will be the result, which could affect the global markets. Moving on to my options portfolio with Robinhood, you can see I have a position here with Kodak down at $7.50. So Kodak emerged from their investigation of impropriety within their C-suite leaders, and it was found that there was no wrongdoing, so it's expected that they will receive their loan to start producing pharmaceuticals, and since then the stock has been pretty stable, right around $10 per share. I took this position right after the announcement, and so far it's in a little bit of a profit here. Disney was down quite a bit yesterday. I think this position's actually a little bit of a loser right now, but I'm still bullish on Disney. If you've been following this series, you would know I had a position in LULU before when it was down quite a bit, and then the stock rallied all the way up to $385 per share. And after seeing this rally, I assumed that this was unsustainable and I closed my position. And now that the stock is down off of its highs, I actually opened this position on December 22nd after the stock was down quite a bit from its highs. Overall, it looks like around a 5% drop from its all-time highs. And it seems like there's some pretty good support down in here. My position is actually at $340 per share, which is actually below these lows of December 11th. And the last time that we've seen that pricing from Lululemon was all the way back on November 18th or 19th. Looking at Palantir, the stock is up today. I'm pretty bullish on this stock, and if you're curious about my position, I do have a few videos on Palantir. And since I'm long-term bullish, I'll probably continue to roll this out in time. And since this stock is pretty cheap, it is a good candidate for credit spreads in a smaller account or even cash secured if you are bullish in the stock. Anything below $22 a share is a buy for me right now, and the stock is right around $28, $29, $28 or $29, and I don't want to buy it that high. So I'm just continuing to sell puts in here between $20 to $22. Starbucks is up quite a bit, and I'll probably look to close this position. I believe it's around 50% profit already, and it goes all the way out to January 29th. And then Uber is down a little bit off its highs as well, similar to Lululemon. And you can see it's up today. Looking at the past month, its highs are around $55. And I took this position a couple of days ago on December 14th when it was around $51, and it did continue down a little bit after that. But we're back up over that price, and I'm still comfortable buying the stock in here at $45 per share. And the last time we saw that pricing was all the way back on November 6th. This LULU position is really generating most of my profits today. This price is down over 50% today. There is a little bit of skew in here, so it's hard to tell exactly what the profits would be if I tried to get out of the position. But this was a great trade in here. I also took this Nike position here today. Looking at Nike, it's down a little bit. And a similar story here to Lululemon. It did have a huge rally, pretty unsustainable up here to $144. And my current options position is $133 per share, which again, we haven't seen that price for around a month, all the way back to, looks like middle of November. Moving on to Tastyworks. You can see I have a position here in AMD. This is actually a cash secured on margin, down at $85 per share. Normally, I would have rolled this because AMD is down quite a bit from its highs. You can see here the stock was hovering around $96, $97 per share. And right now, it's right at that 100-day moving average at $92 per share. I would normally roll this, but the stock does have earnings here on January 26th. And because of that, I don't want to roll it across that earnings play. I'll wait and see if this option comes out to be true at $85 per share. And I may trade the earnings, or I'll just close, wait for the earnings to come out, and then establish a new position in AMD. Boeing, the stock is down quite a bit off its highs. Seems to be kind of the narrative here. Looking back to the beginning of December, the stock was around $240, $244 per share. We had quite a sell-off down to $209, all the way down to $204, and it rallied back up. And my position to buy the stock is all the way down here at $190 per share, well below the 200-day moving average. So I'm pretty comfortable with that position right now, which is in a little bit of a profit. Bank of America, very small position to buy the stock at 26. Probably look to close this because it rallied off the news that banks will be allowed to buy back their stocks, and all banks were up on that news. It's partially propping up the markets. Beyond Meat, still doing well, no issues here. Etsy, way up. I did sell some calls against this to try to lock in some profits. At this point, this stock seems pretty unsustainable here. This pretty ridiculous rally from $155 a share up to $195. The overall stock is way up as well, almost going vertical here. And just when it seemed like we might have a little bit of a taper down here, the stock popped right back up to all-time highs. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. GLD, this is just a put credit spread, simple. Gold was down a little bit, so I sold some puts. Lemonade, I don't really have a great thesis on this right now, but the stock was down pretty well, and it seems to be trending up. I'll probably look to close this position as it's around 50% profit already with 38 days left. Microsoft, I did sell some calls against this to lock in some profits. It's had quite a rally recently, just over the last couple of weeks. Broke through a trend line. It was kind of wedging in here, broke out of that. My calls are way up here, way above all-time highs, but we'll see how that goes. Still pretty bullish on Microsoft. I just think this pricing is a little bit expensive. Match.com had a dip, sold some puts, in a good position right now. Neo, in a pretty good profit. Palantir, I have two positions actually in Palantir. This one goes out to January 29th. Again, similar pricing, $22 per share. I think it's a buy. I do have an Iron Condor on the Qs, which I sold basically at all-time highs. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. And you can see the calls and the puts are both in a profit right now. Snow, way up from where I sold these puts. I did do a full review of Snow, so check that out if you're curious on my position with them. Simon Property Group, this one's actually giving me a little bit of trouble here. I rolled the stock when I maybe shouldn't have, when the stock was pretty high. Simon Property Group has been benefiting from the new vaccine news, and has rallied pretty aggressively, and we've had a little bit of a retest here. We're currently stuck between the 100 and 200-day moving averages. Again, similar situation to AMD. They have earnings on February 2nd, so I don't want to roll this out in time quite yet. So I'll wait and see if this SPG position comes to be a profitable one. And that's why I'm down to 24 days on this. A little bit risky. We'll see how this plays out. SPY, have an iron condor on here. I'm neutral on the major indices right now. Since they are at all-time highs, I don't think we're going to see a huge sell-off unless we find out that the vaccine is not going to work on the new strain of the Rona. I did add a position in Tattooed Chef. Seems like I caught the lows. Took this position on December 18th. And looking at the chart here, December 18th right here, we've had a pretty monster rally since then. I may look to close this position just because it's in so much of a profit right now. And we're basically at those all-time highs since its initial public offering. Last, we have American Steel Corp. Position's in a little bit of a loser right now. They had a pretty monster rally recently. Sold this position in a little bit of a lows. Not a very big position, and I'm not super concerned about it. And then lastly here we have Yeti, which is in a little bit of a profit. Again, pretty monster rally here, but it seems like Yeti is going to be pretty sustainable going forward. If I didn't have a position on in Yeti already, I wouldn't take a new one quite yet, just because it is so close to its all-time highs. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of my options positions. Are you still bullish on the markets, or do you think this new Rona is going to start a downtrend? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. I have my money moves video coming up next week if options are not for you. And then every other week I do my options portfolio. Of course, this is not financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. And have a great day.